and it's now my pleasure to introduce your speaker for this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the officer in charge of the Surrey RCMP, Assistant Commissioner Brian Edwards. Brian, over to you.
Good afternoon to you all. Thank you to Anita and the Surrey Board of Trade for inviting me to be the keynote speaker for the 56th Annual General Meeting. All of us at the Surrey RCMP were just so appreciative of the strong relationship that we have with the Board of Trade. I want to personally thank you for your continuing support of our members and staff. It means such a great deal to them. There is no doubt that this is a year to remember. It's been several references today to COVID-19, and that is clearly going to be one of the defining moments of 2020. In policing, a seminal moment for us is the Black Lives Matter movement, which has provoked intense and often divisive conversations around policing. And we're all going to remember the issues of 2020, but will we remember as leaders of businesses and organizations how we stepped up during this challenging time? Really, in leadership positions, determining how best to lead during uncertain times is one of the most challenging things that we will ever do. I don't claim to be an expert on this topic, but today I thought I would share a little bit about my experience of leading the Surrey RCMP over the last 7 months and almost 1,200 people. So when the COVID pandemic became an urgent problem in March, we, like all of you, were navigating through uncharted territory. Employees were understandably concerned about their health, the health of their families, and that of the community. As a police agency, we couldn't opt out or we couldn't close down at that time, so important decisions needed to be made. A short time later, 2 months in fact, George Floyd filled our TV screens, our Twitter feeds, and our hearts and our minds. Scrutiny of police actions quickly reached an all-time high in North America and really across the world. New videos of other police misconduct seemed to be circulating almost daily. And this was creating resulting questions of all police forces, including the RCMP and Surrey RCMP. And the public rightly had questions about the use of force, body-worn cameras, systemic racism, street checks, and wellness checks, a host of issues. And they wanted answers, and they wanted them fast. An unfortunate byproduct of this fast-moving narrative was distrust or even dislike of police. Locally, for members of Surrey RCMP, we have had the constant bubbling of police transition for almost 2 years. I think over that time, our members have experienced a host of emotions, but one constant feeling is that of anxiety. Anxiety about how it happened, when it will happen, why it is happening, and how it will impact individuals, employees, homes, careers, finances, marriages, even their children. Again, this isn't a discussion we could opt out of. Yet I can tell you that our employees come to work every day and they continue to dig deep. And in fact, they have reduced crime during this period. Today, I'd like to share with you some of the important elements that I considered when leading through these uncertain times. The first thing is the speed of response. As leaders, we always need to decide how quickly we must respond to issues. As all of you will have experienced, COVID-19 required an urgent response. For us in the RCMP, we need to quickly determine how to protect our first responders so we could in turn protect the public. This was time sensitive and decisions needed to be made very, very quickly. But not all issues, no matter how large, they benefit from a quick response from leaders. I think there's often a tremendous pressure on leaders to react very, very quickly. And that pressure can come from so many sources, the public, social media, and it even can come from internally within your organization where employees will see you want to defend them or correct misinformation. But as leaders, there are times when it is more important to be measured, strategic, and to be thoughtful. For instance, do we really believe that we can immediately fix issues of a systemic or institutional nature? Is that sincere? Is that genuine? Or is that even believable? Black Lives Matter, racism, even defunding the police are very, very complex issues, and complex issues require more time and space. We have to consider issues in their entirety. We need to dive deep. We need to listen to different opinions, and we need to allow other opinions and other experiences to be validated. As criticism of police mounted in June, it was very difficult not to immediately react. It was tempting for me to come out with all sorts of statistics on the interactions that we have with the public and the very limited amount of those interactions that result in the use of force. I could have discussed mental health calls. I could have discussed the RCMP's bias-free police training that our recruits receive in Regina. But somehow, I think I would have missed the point if I had done that. People weren't looking for excuses or statistics to validate what we were already doing. They simply wanted the police to do better. In Surrey, we've begun a process of reviewing the initiatives that we already have under our strategic priority of community engagement, some of which you're going to hear tonight. We will do so in a measured fashion with the collaboration of the community because we don't want to abandon what is already working, but we do want to make things better through a shared understanding. So my first leadership lesson in this chair was that faster isn't always better. Speed and quick decision-making, they have a definite role in leadership, but you also need to know when to not immediately react. The second issue that I wanted to talk to you about is about trusting your people. I have police officers and fantastic municipal employees, as you do in your organizations. We all know it's important to trust your people, but it's not always easy to do, and it can be even more difficult to do when the stakes are high. However, this is exactly when you need to put your trust in your employees the most. Let them lead. Give them your high-level expectations and direction, and let them mold it. When COVID-19 started to pick up in March, as we've heard earlier this evening or this afternoon, I stood up a COVID response team in Surrey. I put two of our very best staff sergeants in charge of it that have tremendous operational experience. I set out my priorities: police response, supply management, and wellness. I left the rest to them. I was not even a member of the team. These individuals did an absolutely fantastic job, and they continue to lead our response to this day. And I believe we have one of the best practices of any police agency in alignment with the city of Surrey, of any municipality in the country. I admit it can be difficult as a leader at times to trust when the stakes are so high, but truly it's one of the most important things that you can do. Trust in your people, and if you do, they will trust in you. The final point I wanted to make tonight is the importance of engagement and presence. When things are tough, as they have been for the Surrey RCMP for some time, Your people need you. They need to hear from you. They need to talk to you. They need to see you. And this requires deliberate action on your part. Our days as leader of our respective organizations, they're filled with phone calls, meetings, and we're pulled in many, many directions, often external to our organizations. And this takes us away from our own people. And this isn't always right. One of my most trusted advisors told me last month that our people were really starting to feel the pressure of everything that was happening. And I understood this. We did have COVID, Black Lives Matter, the progress of the transition. And I wanted to do something, but I'd already communicated really everything on those topics that I felt I had to say. But again, I wanted to support them. And this is where I learned the true value of just simply being present. I set my alarm earlier. We have a very early watch that starts on our uniform patrols at 6 in the morning. And I began to attend those briefings. Again, not to read or provide a massive speech to them. I just wanted to be present. And if they had any questions for me, I would answer those questions at the time. I wanted to be there with them. I signed out a patrol car on multiple occasions on Saturday nights. You may or may not have seen me, and I don't think I pulled too many people over. But again, what I wanted to do was be out there with my people. I may have been more of a hindrance than a help, as I tried to remember call signs and doing police reports, but that really wasn't the issue. I wanted to be there, and I think they appreciated those efforts. I can't see all of the 1,145 faces regularly within the detachment. I simply can't do that. But I can see some, and that's really what matters to me, and that's what matters to them. So 2020 has been a challenge. And as leaders, we all will have approached it differently. If we are worth our salt, however, we will look back at times like this and wonder, did we do it right? Did we respond too quick, too slow? But true leaders will evolve with every challenge they face. For me, the past few months have reinforced the importance of knowing when to respond quickly and when to slow it down. Trusting in my people, and really more important than anything, remembering the value of simply being present. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Brian. And I just wanted to underscore the fact that public safety infrastructure does matter to business. And we so appreciate the partnership that we have with Surrey's public safety infrastructure. And ladies and gentlemen, if you do have any specific questions for Surrey's officer in charge, feel free to email me at anita@businessinsurrey.com, and we'll get those answers to your questions as soon as we can. So I want to take some time to recognize the Surrey RCMP and the tremendous contributions they make to public safety in our city. And as you know, every October, we host an annual Police Officer of the Year Awards dinner, the only one of its kind in Canada. It was to be our 24th annual event. And an important component of that event is bringing together the business community and the Surrey RCMP for an incredible evening. But that's not possible with the pandemic this fall. So recognizing that, we decided that this afternoon's program is going to be an opportunity to still showcase a bit about what the Surrey RCMP does for our business community and for Surrey's livability. Again, I want to thank the sponsors of this RCMP recognition event, who are usually supporters of our Police Awards program. That's the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, ICBC, Main Road Group, and of course, a sponsorship in memory of Tara Singh Hare, who is the father of our governor, Dave Hare. There are a multitude of innovative programs and services that the Surrey RCMP has developed over the years for the benefit of Surrey, and they're noted in the package that was sent to you earlier today. And I want to discuss 5 of these programs. And Brian, perhaps you can share some insight as well. The first is the Police Mental Health Outreach Team and CAR 67, recognized for their innovation and integrated approach to addressing the significant mental health, public safety, public health, and quality of life issues, both in the area in and around 135A Street and the Surrey Center area of our city. The focus is on assisting the vulnerable people who live and frequent the Surrey area while ensuring the safety of residents and businesses in the area and throughout our city. Brian, can you tell us a little bit more about that program?
Thank you, Anita. We're extremely proud of this program. This started in March 1st, 2019. So the Police Mental Health Outreach Team, I think this is best practice across Canada. And when we listen to some of the narrative that's out there to fund other agencies, I think this is really ahead of its time. So really what these folks do, they're not enforcement minded. We recognize in policing that we are being in the front line. We often encounter people that have a host of issues, and many of these are mental health issues. And these become chronic clients for us. So rather than an enforcement focus, this is really a wellness focus. And our officers are specially trained, and they work with these folks, especially in certain areas of the city. And they help, they build up a degree of trust with them, and they help them access other services. And again, the police are uniquely positioned with our logistics of police vehicles, radios, our ability to get out in the community and assist these folks. We also, throughout Surrey, it's not just 135A. They check homeless encampments throughout the city. And what we're doing is checking on the wellness of those people, making sure that they're okay, and have had tremendous success in getting access to services. And we think this just helps us do our part in the overall goal of community safety. So very pleased with that, that initiative. And just very briefly, CAR 67, we are partnered with specially trained nurses. So this is even a tier up from the Police Mental Health Outreach Team, and we accompany them, and we are able to get people to the resources they need so that we don't have to deal with them from an enforcement perspective.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, with CAR 67, it involved an RCMP officer and a nurse attending police calls to determine the level of intervention required, conducting mental health assessments, and referrals to community programs when appropriate. So thank you so much for that further explanation. The second program through the Surrey RCMP that I wanted to recognize today is the Diversity and Indigenous Peoples Unit. And I think all of you know that in Surrey, we have the highest urban Aboriginal population in British Columbia. The Surrey RCMP Diversity and Indigenous Peoples Unit is responsible for the coordination and delivery of education and training to both internal and external audiences, such as staff in the community. Internally, this is achieved using a combination of training and increasing awareness around diversity issues and celebrating special events. Externally, the focus is on conducting presentations on accessing police services, as well as workshops on other public safety and crime prevention topics. The unit also seeks out strategic community engagement, including the business community, to support diverse community celebrations and foster better relationships with residents, businesses, and the Surrey RCMP. Brian, any other words on this?
Again, just another unit we are so proud of. And we know in the past that we have so many diverse groups that have not established relationships with the police. And we don't think that leads to strong community safety. So These folks do a number of things. One, internal training, which I believe is extremely important. We get people in the Surrey RCMP from throughout all of Canada, many from Surrey themselves. And we want to make sure that when they come into our community, they recognize what our community is all about. Hence the bias-free police training, and of course the internal training that we can do through our diversity team. And they can showcase things like Black History Month, Vaisakhi, Ramadan, and the Orange Shirt Day. So we have that internally. And then they can engage externally on behalf of all our membership and make the linkages with these communities and build the trust and ensure that they can access police services. We want to recruit folks, so we are representative of our community, and ensure that those relationships are healthy and that everybody is able to access police services. So again, very, very pleased and proud of this unit, especially at this particular time. And that's why I said when we're going to do a review, we want to be very methodical in doing that review, because we want to ensure that we keep the things that are working, and if we can, even make them better.
Absolutely. And the next program, which is called the Business Engagement and Safety Team, otherwise known as BEST, is really one of those successful, meaningful models that has made an impact to our city's livability. The Surrey RCMP Detachment's Business Engagement and Safety Team was established in 2017 as a result of a business outreach initiative in partnership with the Cloverdale Business Improvement Association and the City of Surrey's Public Safety Strategy Team. The objective of this program was to provide a proactive crime prevention and awareness outreach program for District 4 in Cloverdale as a proactive RCMP product of this nature existed at the time. Due to the increasing needs of our rapidly growing business community, the district-based model was quickly expanded citywide. BEST is delivered under the detachment's community programs umbrella by trained and experienced RCMP volunteers, many with former business backgrounds and or experience. Ladies and gentlemen, through a process of trend and needs analysis, which the business community is very familiar with, Surrey businesses and merchants proactively visited they were proactively visited by BEST volunteers to promote reporting to police, gathering information about policing issues and concerns. So these Surrey businesses and merchants, they proactively visited by providing crime prevention support and acting as a referral point for businesses to be appropriate handlers of specific problems, concerns that they have, such as bylaws and other public safety concerns. Brian, any other words on that program?
This one's personal for me. I take it very seriously. My dad was a small business owner, and I know that a lot of small business owners, they can't endure crime that large organizations can. And so I think it's very important that we get out there and engage in any preventative measures that we can take. And so that liaison with that community is very important to me, and I want that feedback too on where we can dedicate resources. Again, it's not always perfect, but for me, I recognize very well the impact that crime can have, and the smaller the business, the more impact it has, and we have to protect those businesses the best we can. So again, with this outreach, this is very important to me that it continue, and I'm very proud of their work.
Well, I mentioned earlier that public safety infrastructure matters to business, and that means that the livability of the city of Surrey matters to the Surrey Board of Trade. And one of the mechanisms, a very successful program, is the Surrey Gang Enforcement Team. And their mandate is to reduce the risk to public safety resulting from the actions of organized crime. Providing gang education, outreach, prevention strategies to deter recruitment and continued involvement in criminal groups. So they do this by identifying, arresting, disrupting, conducting enforcement action on any gang criminal organization. They provide gang education and outreach within the city. They liaise with our youth. They administer an inadmissible patrons program, which the Surrey Board of Trade advocated for, and any other duties through their senior leadership team that are needed to enhance the livability of our city. Brian, do you have more information about the gang enforcement team?
Yeah, again, just another excellent unit. They're one of the first units I went out with when I took the chair as the officer in charge. And you raised a couple of points, which I'll reiterate here. These are some really hard-nosed members that we have in there, and that's exactly what I want. I saw them even, they were out on Saturday night when I was out. The one thing that they do is they know who the gangsters are. They know them personally, and they keep track of them, and they interdict and let them know about their presence in Surrey, and they're going to be watched very carefully. But we didn't just want straight enforcement. We need education too. Public safety is multiple pronged, as we all know. So these members, they go into our schools and they deliver programs. And I think that's what is especially important about this unit. They're not just out there doing enforcement, they're doing education, because we've got to get to those young hearts and those minds at the time that we're able to make a difference. What I like about this group is because they are out on the street, they come with some significant credibility when they are providing those talks to our kids in the schools. Again, you can rest assured we've selected some excellent people out there. I was just so impressed with them the first time I went out. And again, on Saturday night, I was impressed with their work. And I think the proof is in the pudding. They're having some excellent results.
40% of Surrey's population is under the age of 19. And so this final program that I wanted to recognize through the Surrey RCMP really resonates with us. And that's the Citizen and Youth Police Academy. And so this is a 9-week interactive program created to provide Surrey residents and youth an opportunity to learn more about policing in Surrey. And so throughout these 9 weeks, candidates are taken through a series of connected scenarios, presentations, and activities geared toward having the police team solve the crime. This interactive learning series aims to foster a better understanding between Surrey citizens and the RCMP and explore what the community can do together to enhance public safety. Brian, any other words on this?
Yeah, certainly. Again, we don't want policing to be a mystery. You know, we're just the folks that were selected to become police officers, but we're the community and the community is us. So the more that we can do to get people in there, and there are all sorts of people that are so interested in this that chose other careers, but always had an interest in policing. I wish there was a Citizens and Youth Flight Academy, because I always wanted to be a pilot and I wish I could do this with them. But you come in and they get to learn about policing, and this just establishes those relationships. On the youth side, that also is very good. It provides a stronger connection to some of our youth. It just so happens I was speaking with a young constable the other day, and he actually and his best friend participated in this many years ago. Well, not that many. He's not very old. I am, but he participated in this. And both he and his best buddy are now serving Mounties or serving members in Mounties. So again, a tremendous program, really provides a linkage to the community on a personal level for people.
Brian, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I always have appreciated working with you and your predecessors. Your Surrey RCMP, ladies and gentlemen, is committed to working with you to keep residents and businesses safe. And Brian, thank you so much again for joining us today. Thank you again to our event sponsors, the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, ICBC, Main Road Group, and a sponsorship in memory of Tara Singh Hare.